With all of the agencies that I've worked with, I've seen that there are three main mistakes that stop them from growing past a certain point. And I've said that it's really year one because what I'm guessing and who this video is really for is for people who have got their agency so to a certain point where they've got some clients, some results, but are stuck and they want to get it to the next level. It's also for people a little bit below that have the foresight to want to look ahead and make sure that they build their foundations properly. So let's get into it. Mistake number one is really simply just relying too much on referrals. The way that I look at this, and this is a bit of a hot take, but referrals are like pain medication. They feel good, they help you temporarily, but really they fuck you long term because they don't deal with the core issues that you're experiencing, which in actuality is not having a predictable process to get clients. If you had a process like that, you wouldn't have to rely on the referrals. And by the way, I'm not saying that referrals are bad. Referrals are amazing because it tells me that you're doing a really, really good job. But why aren't you taking that good job that you're doing and looping it back into, you're free looping it back into the system? Because right now you just get good results, your clients are happy, you're getting good referrals coming in, sure, but you should be looping the results that you're getting back into a predictable system as opposed to get good results and hope for the best that referrals are going to come in, okay? So getting referrals are really, really good, but you need to loop that back in to the system of getting more clients. Now, just really quickly to illustrate my point, and shout out to Sam Ovens for this diagram that everybody is massively overused. But look, you've got this process of getting your service delivery. The output of the service delivery is good results. Now you should be getting those good results and feeding that back into an input with your client acquisition system. The more results that you get and the better your results are, it should in theory come back into this input where you're getting more clients. And then the more clients you get, the more results you get, the more better feedback you get, and the more that fuels your client acquisition. This is the way that real referrals should be working if your service delivery is going really well, okay? Now, just a quick analogy, like Uber primarily built their business using referrals and to get the cash flow coming in, but they were unprofitable for years just relying on the referrals. So yes, referrals is a good way of getting some cash in the door, but when you've got the cash, you need to use it to build out the systems that allow you to just continuously get this loop. And that way, the better results that you get, the more clients you end up getting, the more money that you end up making, and this cycle just continuously goes and just expands and continuously works, okay? So really what I'm saying is to see referrals as bonuses. A referral comes in, you're happy about it, that's amazing, that's great, but also it's a bonus. You don't need them necessarily. And you can build systems to help you get more referrals. That's amazing, but don't rely on the referrals. If you're relying on the referrals, that's really what's going to screw you over. And as I said, they can be great, but they shouldn't be the only source of new clients for you. And a lot of people are relying on referrals. They're like, hey, my service delivery, their logic and the way they justify this in their brain is like, well, if I have the best service delivery, I'll get more referrals. And if I get more referrals, I grow my business. Valid point. That's true. And congrats to you again, because it tells me that you're getting good results already. It's the relying on this that's the issue. Okay, relying on referrals. I mean, referrals alone, it's unpredictable. You cannot, if you start out September and you say, I want to get 10 clients, there is no predictable process to actually ensure that you're going to get those 10 clients if you're only relying on referrals, right? But I really want you to think about this diagram and think about how you can ensure that every time you get good results flips back into getting new clients. That is how you scale. That offers predictability and allows you to profit on the fact that you're actually getting incredible results and feed that back into getting more clients, okay? That's how you have really long-term success in the agency space. It's not just signing clients just because you've got good outreach. It's incorporating everything and allowing each segment of the business to multiply. I'll talk about this a little bit more later in the video. So the other issue, you don't want to rely on referrals. The other issue that's caused by relying on referrals is just having poor quality, like not being able to choose the referrals that come to you because it's about people coming to you and not you going to them. Okay, just think about it. If you're just sitting there all the time, you're waiting for people to come to you. You have a limited amount of people that you want to work with, that you can serve, because you're not always going to have the absolute best quality people coming to you. And by quality, I don't mean quality of person, I mean quality of business, and just naturally they meet the qualification of businesses that you want to work with. Okay, so if you want more control on who you work with, and you want to work with people that you know that you're absolutely going to crush it with, you need to pinpoint what that person or that client avatar looks like, and you need to go out and find them, because they're not just going to come to you. There are ways that you can tweak it with the marketing, but generalizing, you're going to have pretty poor quality of the referrals that are coming in, okay? And another like hot take, but honestly, you're not a real business owner if your business relies on referrals, because you simply don't have a lead generation and sales system looks like. If you look at like really standard level of what business looks like, you've got lead generation, lead gen, I'm going to make this quick, nurture. So you got lead gen, lead nurture, lead conversion, fulfillment, and then kind of everything else that comes through that, you know, in terms of retention and complete and continuing to make money from your clients, etc. But these are like the different areas of your business. If you don't have this figured out, and all you have is like referrals coming in, and then with the referrals you've got somewhat of a sales system, but like not really a sales system because they were referrals. Like I could close referrals really easily because they're so warm. It kills the need to have any predictability in your sales process, and that kills your business. And in my opinion, if you don't have these three main areas of being able to go out and predictably get clients, you're not really a business owner. You're just a fulfillment partner. You might as well become you're a highly paid freelancer or contractor. That's what you are. So what's the solution? The solution pretty simply is use systems and feedback loops, as I'm explaining here, to exponentially expand your business, right? The same way that I've shown you already, we want to make it so every time you get good results, you get more clients. And you get more clients, you have a great system delivery, you get incredible results, and then you get more clients. It just continuously feeds back into each other. And when this happens, the more momentum that's built in, notice like my mouse is small now, but as you continue, it goes faster and faster and faster and faster, and that's the flywheel that's created because of the momentum that happens. When this starts, it's slow, and then with time it picks up and it picks up, and it just starts speeding, and it's completely out of control in a good way. That's the flywheel effect that causes exponential growth for your business. It's not going to happen in year one, it might not even happen in year two. That is why people exponentially scale after that, okay? So we want to have this loop of you get clients, then you get results, and you use those results to acquire more clients and just completely continue repeating that. Each client you sign should produce more clients, but not in the form of just relying on referrals. In actuality, you want the exponential increase of having more results and improved delivery, which creates more clients. And that's everything that I've been speaking about here with this loop going on, okay? The only reason not to have a system like this is if you are okay making 10 to 30K a month, where you're not actually able to choose the clients that you work with, you're just happily accepting the people that come with you instead of choosing your dream clients. And that's okay. I'm not here to shame you for that. If that's what you want to do, that's totally okay. All right. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to try and tell you that that's wrong. I'm just going to tell you that it creates issues. And as we're going to get into in a second, it could potentially lead to the death of your business. I don't mean to be so crazy with that word, death of the business, but really the business is a living thing if you want to look at it like that. And it could die, and it would die if you don't work on growing it. Okay, I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But that's the main mistake, relying too much on referrals. Hopefully you can understand how important it is to have this system and feedback loop going on. Mistake number 2 is an imbalance between the client acquisition and service delivery. And now there is some truth to the idea that in the beginning, you must focus on one over the other. So for years, for absolute years now at this point, 2021, 2022, 23, 24. So for 3 years, pretty much, I have been focused on building our product to be the best in the market, working pretty low key with not that many, 60 clients, one-on-one, making this the best product, the best solution in the market, right? And I've spent 3 years doing it to the point now where I can offer some of the most craziest guarantees in the space because we have the systems and delivery and the client results and everything else to back it up, right? I know that it works because I decided to prioritize the service delivery. But at the same time, well, with the same kind of concept, you want to kind of consider, are you focused on getting really rich quickly or long term? Now, me personally, I want generational wealth. I'm willing to have the yacht parties in my 30s and not necessarily like right now. Right now, I've been mostly focused on service delivery. Okay? But I've been stacking the rocks since pretty much 2017. Just stacking the rocks, building everything in quiet, in silence, just building it up, working with just a handful of people. And now it's time for me to start accelerating the growth. But there is a problem with the way that most people are doing it, right? I'm going to explain how the way that I've done it differently has allowed some balance with growth. It allowed me to make money whilst figuring out the client delivery side, okay? So let me explain what I mean by that. Now, most people, they fuck up because they completely stop one to focus on the other side of the business. And people will be like, my results suck, so I will stop getting more clients and just focus on the current one. It makes no sense. You have to understand that if you're getting poor results right now, there's two main things that's going to happen. Number one, there's a higher likelihood that the client's going to drop off. No matter how good you start getting the results now, if you started the relationship poorly at the beginning, they will remember that. Okay, it's called the primary effect in psychology. Check it out, right? It means that the thing that happens in the beginning and the recency bias, the things that happen at the end, are the things that are remembered most. People don't really remember this, all right? So they're going to really remember results totally sucking, and then if you do turn it around, they'll remember like the results being good now, but that's kind of it. Okay, they're going to kind of forget the stuff that happened in the middle. They're going to forget all of the hard work that you did to get there. They're just going to remember what happened at the beginning, what's happening now most recently. So if your results suck, that's what they're going to keep in mind. That's what they're going to be aware of. And what most people do is they kind of be in a place where they're like, okay, my results are really bad right now, so I'll focus on getting the client result. But as I said, they're more likely to drop off. And the second thing to keep in mind is the reason for them getting client bad results might not even be your issue in the first place. We had an e-com client. I ended up selling out their stock within about between a month and 2 months, somewhere within that timeline. And then for the next 2 to 3 months after that, they had really bad results. But the reason they had really bad results is because we sold out their stock. They had the only sizes that they had available in their products were the sizes that people weren't buying. And that's why they also hadn't sold out, just those small pieces. There was hardly any stock available. Now, that wasn't on me. The only thing that could have maybe done better is we could have checked the stock levels, communicated with the client, and then slowed down. But in really actuality, we did our job. We fulfilled everything that they needed. What they couldn't do is fulfill the delivery of more products quicker, right? That was the problem. So my point is sometimes your results are not going to suck because of you. They're going to suck because of the client that you have. So if you stop getting more clients just to focus on your current client, the results might actually not get better because you've got the wrong client on board. And look, if you're in a point with your agency where you've worked with a bunch of clients by now, you should be able to have an idea of what a good client versus a bad client is in terms of, which ones are really going to crush it and which ones are not. But the point is, like, sometimes you're just not going to be able to turn it around in the way that you wanted to. So what I'm saying is that you shouldn't completely stop client acquisition just to work on your service delivery. Now, you wouldn't stop service delivery to get more clients. So why would you do the opposite, right? You're not going to say one day, oh, you know what, I'm not getting enough clients. Like, I've got 5 clients, but I don't have any more coming in. So you know what I'll do? I'll just stop getting more. I'll just stop the service delivery and just work on getting more. Like, that doesn't make any sense either. So you need to not do the opposite, all right? You need to make sure that you're balancing and doing a bit of both. Understand that clients will naturally churn. Some will get great results and others will not. But it's your job as the founder to fundamentally remove the bottlenecks and the constraints that you're facing in your business. Which means if you're struggling to get results because you're too focused on client acquisition, then offload some of the client acquisition, right? If that's your bottleneck, you're spending too much time and energy on client acquisition, so you're getting terrible results, then look at offloading your client acquisition or look at other ways to improve your client results. If you're too focused on getting results and thereby your client acquisition is slacking, this is actually more commonly a case, then offload some of the service delivery, right? That's just, it should make sense, but it makes sense to me because I've been doing this a while. For a beginner, somebody that's in your position, you might not be thinking like this, but you really got to look at this. Your job is to remove the constraints and the bottlenecks that are preventing you from growing. Okay, you need to learn to look at the business as a machine. I'm going to bring up that thing one more time. You need to learn to look at the business as just a set of systems, just like this, right? Or things that go round and round and round. You got to look at a business as a set of those systems. And your job is, you must understand that system, this one here, is going to continuously spin. A system always is running, okay? It's just at what level, at what scale, at which speed is your job as the founder and the person that's really directing the system. It's your job to make sure that it's running in the right way. The processes are working, there's good speed, there's good consistency, etc. Okay? That is what your job is, really. It's just to make sure that everything's continuously working at the level that you want it to. And you have to understand that the business is continuously working whether or not you're doing it or not, okay? So if you stop doing client acquisition, your service delivery will continue. Your service delivery just continues spinning around as long as you're obviously doing that. And each day you're just moving closer and closer to the client naturally churning. All right? There is nothing that you can do to guarantee that the client will stick around for 50 years. There is nothing that you can do. You can sign them on an agreement, and then sorry to use a horrible analogy, but if they end up passing away and there's nobody left to run the business, then the client doesn't pay you anymore. There's no one there to pay you. Okay? You have to understand that there's no ever guarantee that you can keep a client for 50 years. And because of that, you have to understand that at some point, they will churn. Whether that's going to happen in a week, 6 months, 12 months, or 49 years from now, it's going to happen at some point. Okay? So if you stop doing client acquisition, you only focus on service delivery, you will lose all of your clients at some point. It's just going to happen. And if you only rely on the referrals, well, I already touched on that already. Okay? Not a good idea. So as a little note here, I don't want you to jump from one extreme to the other. I'm not saying that you should only focus on client acquisition. I'm definitely not saying only focus on service delivery. You and your job as an agency owner is to work on those different areas of the business. One of those areas is service delivery, and you must make sure that you can get good results for your clients by any means necessary. I'm not telling you to be lazy or to lazy on the service delivery or only focus on signing clients. A lot of people out there just push this thing, sign more clients, but it's not always a good thing for your business long term. What I'm saying is that it's your job to keep your business healthy and growing. Understand that in nature, things naturally die. Okay, think about a plant, that's growing. Maybe a plant isn't a great analogy, but the point is you gotta realize that things decay naturally. If you leave a house in the sun for too long, the bricks will crumble and it naturally will decay. All right, this happens. Things naturally die. It's part of nature, right? The plant analogy I was going to use before is no matter all of the sunlight and the watering and everything else that you give it, at some point it's going to die. It's just going to say, at some point it's going to reach the point where the environment's no longer supporting it and it's going to die. That is the thing. It's a part of nature. And because it's a part of nature, it also shows up in the business as well. So understand that because this death and this decay is natural and it always happens to every system, everything in nature, it always happens, you have to understand that nothing is ever stagnant, okay? There is no point that your business is ever flatlined. No point. It's either growing or it's dying. It's always one of those two. Okay, you have to understand that if your business is not growing, your business is dying. And if your business is dying, then you're failing as an entrepreneur. You're failing as the business owner because your job is to keep it growing and making sure that it's healthy. all areas of that business, not just service delivery, not just client acquisition, but all areas. Now, there will be some seasons that you should be more or less focused on growth, but no season of the business is excusable for total destruction of the business through negligence. When you are neglecting the growth of your business, and therefore, because of this natural decay, or in other words, because of the natural churn that you experience, the business ends up actually just running itself into the ground. Okay? If you don't keep an eye on your business and you don't keep it growing up and making it healthy and keep it growing, it will naturally die. I hope I've been able to get that internalized into your mind. But if not, just keep rewatching the video until it soaks in that segment of the video until it soaks in. Now, understand that while certain times may require more focus on one area of the business, completely neglecting the other areas are detrimental to the growth. And honestly, bro, it's just foolish. It's just stupid. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It's just stupid to entirely focus on one area and let go of the other. All right, because you have to understand, once again, you're probably getting annoyed by me bringing this up at this point, but it's important. You have to understand that your business is a system. And if your business is a system and you leave one aspect of that system, then it's just not going to perform as well. All right, your client acquisition impacts your service delivery. Your service delivery impacts your client acquisition, and all of those microsystems involved in service delivery, in terms of the way you're doing your reporting, your communication with your clients, your check-ins, the little subsystems that you've got for all of those little points, they make up the service delivery, right? And then with your outreach, all of the little systems that you've got there in terms of how you're sourcing leads, how you're nurturing them, and booking their appointments, your sales process, your follow-up systems, etc. All of those little microsystems make up the sales client acquisition system. And again, the client acquisition system impacts your service delivery system and impacts the whole system of the business entirely. Okay, you have to understand that each area of the business that you've got, however many areas there are, they impact each other and it all works together. The better that all of those systems are working, the better that all of the systems will work when put together. Okay, if you have, let's just, for simplification, let's say there's 5 main areas of the business. If one of them is performing really bad, it's your job to focus on fixing that one, but not neglect the other 4 that are already performing well. That would lead to the death of the business once again. Okay. Now, quick example. I've said I've had clients, but that's not true. One client. I had one client that I didn't profit on in the beginning because I paid the entire of that retainer to my media buyer so we could get good results and then use those good results to sign more clients. And then I ended up profiting very significantly from that experience, okay? And it just worked really well. Essentially, I used the time to focus on getting more clients instead of the delivery, all right? I got one client. Instead of me doing the delivery, I gave them to a media buyer. The media buyer got incredible results. In the meantime, I was doing more outreach to get more clients on board. So then we had more clients, more results. We put those together. And as I said before, we have that exponential increase. Okay. So yeah, as I said, I used the time to focus on getting more clients instead of doing the delivery. Simultaneously, we got good results coming in without my effort. Then we signed more clients and naturally made a hell of a lot more money. Okay, hope that makes sense. Second mistake is an imbalance between client acquisition and service delivery. In short, don't do one and completely neglect the other. It will cause the death of your business. All right. Mistake number 3 is not systemizing early on. And note really that it should be coming clear that the main concept, the main theme of this video is dealing with bottlenecks and the incorrect approaches that the founders are using to go about these bottlenecks. That is why the agency is keeping stuck for the most part. Now, understand that we as entrepreneurs are problem solvers. We solve problems. Our clients pay us to solve their problems. We grow our business by solving our problems, and we solve our personal problems, and thereby we end up growing the business. And often, a lot of the time, by growing a business, we actually solve our own personal problems as well, and vice versa. Okay? Our life is all about solving problems. We get paid to do it. We solve problems and then get paid, and we get paid and then solve problems. Like it's just all part of life. It's just what we do. Okay, we are problem solvers. Now, with that said, understand that just going through this, understand that the main premise is that we are there to solve problems. That's the main thing. But expecting to solve all of those problems and do everything alone is just stupid, because that is not your role. Your role is to make sure that the system is well oiled all around and is operating smoothly, right? It's your responsibility to ensure that everything's running. These systems, your job is to make sure that there is a flow like this, and to make sure that the system is running like this. That's your job, okay? Now, it's not necessarily your responsibility to get inside that particular system and fix it yourself. You just need to oversee it. It's your responsibility to make sure that you're getting results. That doesn't mean that it's directly your responsibility to get inside that problem and, tweak your ad copy or tweak the way that you're doing communication or something like that, right? A lot of the time, it's just your job to oversee it and make sure that you're making the right decisions to fix those bottlenecks or constraints that you're facing. All right? And what I mean by this is that, yes, it's your responsibility to make sure everything's working, but you don't need to be the one actually doing it necessarily. This is where it comes to the idea of utilizing automation and delegation to remove the bottlenecks efficiently and thus grow the agency, right? The best founders, deep at their core, as I mentioned, are excellent problem solvers, great thinkers, and they have an impeccable understanding of systems, which is why I keep bringing up this diagram, because of how important it is. Now, your main goal should be offloading everything as quickly as possible, stepping back so you don't need to, it doesn't require your personal focus and attention and time yourself. You step back as quickly as possible whilst maintaining that profitable growth and the business growing forward, okay? At that level, you work on leading your team and optimizing their processes to make everything easier for them, right? I want to communicate this just one more way, just for those that need this internalized a little bit deeper. Your job, your responsibility, as I said, is to make sure everything's running smoothly. It doesn't mean that you yourself need to be working in those problems. So let's say that you realize that one of your biggest constraints right now is service delivery. Your clients are churning after a month. Your results are just terrible. You realize that you've got a service delivery problem. Now, that doesn't mean that you should be the one running the ads, doing the email marketing, or whatever it is. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the best solution. It might be that you realize, you know what, I just really suck at marketing. I'm really not good at marketing. I need to get a media buyer. I need to get a copywriter. I need to get an email marketer to come in and help me with this. Okay, and that's where maybe you'll get a coach, or you'll delegate it entirely. You get somebody to come in and just done for you. They will do the whole thing for you in terms of your service delivery. Okay. Now, in the meantime, you can work on excelling your skills and getting better and better, because you should really be the best at fixing these different systems of the business. But to use an overused analogy, Elon Musk has probably a really good understanding of how to create a rocket ship and how cars work and how Twitter or X, whatever it's called, is, what the algorithm looks like a little bit. But he's not the one writing the code for the algorithm. He's not the one piecing putting the tire on the rest of the infrastructure of the car. Or he's not the one flying the rocket ship or writing whatever systems and putting the systems together for that rocket ship. Okay? He's just the one that's making sure that ultimately the rocket ship flies. And it actually gets up to where it's supposed to go and actually lands, in his case. All right? That's his job, is making sure that it runs smoothly. And if it doesn't, that's his job to fix, right? If he's on stage and he throws a rock at a window and it breaks, it's his responsibility. But it's then his responsibility to go to the engineers afterwards and say, you need to figure out why that window broke, and you need to make sure that it's fixed so it doesn't happen again. All right? That's the big difference here. I hope that's really, really driving in, okay? Now, as back in my 9 to 5, before I left to, obviously go in with my agency, I asked him one time, like, hey, how do you, like, what's your biggest, because he was like, he came in and he drastically turned around the performance of the store really quickly. And I asked him, hey, what is it that's making this easy for you? Because you look like this, like it's a piece of cake. And he just told me, if you want your team to work for you, you need to work for them. And what this means is, if you make your team's life easy, they will achieve incredible results. They'll do incredible work for you. They'll help you achieve everything you want if you just make it easy for them to do the things that they need to do. Okay? That's it, really quickly. Now, there's not much more to cover, but is a little bit. So when it comes to this here, right, really what we want to do is understand that back, because I've been in the agency space for since 2017. And back then, it was a really big thing whenever these coaches and gurus were trying to sell people in agency courses. They would say to you, the reason that businesses need us is so they can focus on them like growing their business instead of like working in the business, right? And the way that this is kind of being reflected now is that us marketing agencies, what we're doing is we are taking on the problems of our clients and we're saying to them, hey, don't worry, we'll focus on the marketing, so you don't need to focus on that. You can focus on the other areas of your business. But then what we're doing is we're taking on these clients and then we're the ones working in their business. And we're also the ones working in our business, in our agency. So what you see is all of the agency founders taking on the problems of their clients, which is really good, but then doing everything all themselves, which is really bad. And that's what leads to no actual growth for the agency. In other words, the agency founder ends up working in the business, theirs and their clients', dealing with the daily tasks instead of working on the business to fix these bottlenecks at a higher overseeing level, right? There was always this big thing that we're going to our clients and we're saying to them, hey, if we take care of the marketing, you don't need to work in the business, you get to work on the business. But now, what the agencies are doing is they're working in the business, not on the business. They're working on making sure that their clients are getting incredible results and not working on making sure that their agency is growing. And that is the mistake that people are making today, the third main mistake that people are making today. So in terms of practical approach to systemizing and making sure that that works, a couple little things practically. Firstly, just make sure that your focus is right. And by that, I mean that you should be focusing on removing the bottlenecks and constraints that are preventing your growth. If something's working really, really well right now, but there's another area of the business that's not working as well, usually your focus should be on fixing that area of the business that's not working, not performing, not necessarily improving the one that's working really well, but improving the constraint, right? And improving the bit that's restricting the flow of the system and the rest of the business. Now, just to draw this home, like ignore everything that's on this diagram. Just focus on this part here, which is the pipe. Okay, if you've got a pipe running and you've got a constraint right here or a bottleneck here, what it means is the for lack of better analogy, the liquid that's kind of here, if your constraint is in this middle section, then it's not going to be able to get through to the next section, right? Your job is to make sure that this pipe is working and flowing as well as possible. If this is a constraint where it's really small, then it means that there's going to be a blockage. And again, lack of analogy, that the flow of this liquid that's here is going to be restricted and this part's blocked. So there's less that's going to go through here. And that's where the business stops growing, because this flow is restricted at some point. There's a bottleneck, and that's where it can't grow. The reason that they call it a bottleneck is because the neck of the bottle is the thinnest part, okay? Which means the rest of the bottle is this big part. The bottleneck is this thin part, so all of this liquid here has to stack up and squeeze through this tiny gap to get out of the bottle and into the cup or whatever it is, right? If we had this big bottle and instead of this tiny bottleneck, we made it here, then all of the liquid runs out incredibly quicker. The way that translates to your business growth is that the business grows incredibly quicker, okay? I hope that makes sense. So you've got to make sure that you're focusing on the right parts of the business. And the right parts, it's your job to remove the bottlenecks and remove the constraints, okay? Next, delegate. So in terms of delegation, just hire where it hurts. If you realize that the constraint that you're facing right now is that you're spending too much time on your service delivery, outsource it, or at least outsource some of it so you can free up some of your time. A client of mine recently, in terms of his offer for his agency, they're doing lead generation, they're doing some appointment setting for their client. He realized that he was spending way too much time on the appointment setting because he was having like really lengthy conversations with the prospects for his client. Like all of the leads that they were generating, he was having really lengthy conversations. So I spoke with him and we came up, I really just told him like implement two things. Firstly, drastically reduce the call time because you're not a salesperson. That's not your job. Your job is to make sure they're warm enough for the client to be able to close, but not for you to actually close themselves. I told him drastically reduce that time. So he did that. And then I told him to offload it, delegate it, get somebody else to do it. So what he's done right now is he's brought somebody in to half his workload. So he's already kind of halved his workload by reducing the amount of time that was spent. So that's one fix. And the second fix is hiring somebody, giving them half of his workload so they will take over, and then eventually they'll take over that entire thing and he won't need to do anything there. Okay? So that is us looking at a constraint or a bottleneck and then putting in two solutions in place to fix it. Next is automation. So just where you can just automate things. A lot of the stuff that we do on a daily basis in agency can be automated because it's just like manual, same repetitive tasks. If that's the case, automate it. A lot of this stuff you can also delegate really cheap via like a VA. So if there's some stuff that you could just hard automate for whatever reason, then you can hire a VA, $3-4 an hour and have them do it with really good processes in place. And lastly, in terms of delete, just delete anything that isn't focused on growing the business or helping it operate. There's a few areas of the business that we have to do that doesn't actually look like it's growing the business. Like, I guess bookkeeping is one of those where like by actually you looking through the books, it doesn't actually directly grow the business, but it does help you make better decisions that will allow you to grow the business. So that's not something that should be deleted. But there are some areas of the business that people are just doing that don't need to be done. That could be deleted. So just use your due diligence there, be smart, use your initiative and cut the things that should be cut. As a couple notes, I get pitched closes for my offer like pretty much all the time. I get pitched two things right now a lot. People to help me with my YouTube, valid because the YouTube has been on the back pedal for a little bit, working on it. But that's the first thing, YouTube. The second thing I get pitched off for a lot is closes. People to come in and take my sales calls. Now, I don't need that because it's not a constraint for me right now. There are some areas of a YouTube that need improving and there are some metrics that are low, but I'm aware of those and I'm making the right decisions to make sure that those move up. And if they don't move up, if the things that I'm implementing don't work, then by all means, maybe we'll end up offloading it. But for now, it's not a massive constraint. It is becoming more of a priority. And I'm doing the things that I need to do as per my responsibility to make sure that that's working for the business, okay? But I don't need closers. That is not a constraint. It's not a bottleneck. I can take the calls that I've got, and it's not a problem, okay? So I do not need closers for the offer right now. Understand that it's your job to see the business for what it is. It's a collection of systems that either work together to grow the business or work together to kill the business. It's always going to be one of the two, right? Once you understand that the business is a collection of systems, you must then just work out what are your biggest bottlenecks and constraints in the systems, and then you can work on removing those through delegation, automation, deletion, or some of the times doing the stuff yourself, but just making sure that you're making the right decision based on where your business is and what is right for the business at the same time, okay? Now, a lot of this stuff that I'm going through today is more general, hopefully high level stuff that you haven't heard before, but it's more general because I'm addressing this video to the entire population of the world that are agency owners. So with that said, if you want more of a one-on-one solution for your specific agency, and specifically if you're in a place right now where you would like a more consistent and predictable flow of qualified meetings for your agency and clients for your agency, click the link in the description below. It will tell you more about my one-on-one mentorship that I'm offering right now that will help us go into the business that you're experiencing right now, look at those specific bottlenecks and constraints that you have and fix those together. And just like I've walked you through today, your constraints might be a little bit different to other people. We can work one-on-one and we can get those solved so you can get a more predictable and consistent flow of clients for your agency. If you want it, click the first link in the description below. If not, it's totally fine. Just click the subscribe button instead. That way you can stay up to date with my newest content coming out and just implement this stuff and get results for free. And then we can go from there. Okay? I hope you found this one informative and I'll see you again in the next video.